Arcturian Awakening.
Open this now, not later, not after you finish whatever you were doing. Because what the Arcturians have embedded inside this specific window of time does not carry over into tomorrow in the same way it exists right now. Tomorrow, this message will still be here. The words will be identical. The video will load the same way. But something in the energetic architecture surrounding this content, the specific field condition that makes what is inside it receivable at full depth, closes at the end of today's cycle. Tomorrow you receive the record of what happened tonight. Tonight you receive what is actually happening. There is a difference between those two things that I cannot overstate. And I need to know before we go any further that you are serious about this, because what I am about to walk you through requires your complete presence from this moment until the final word. Not partial attention. Not this playing in the background while you do something else. Look at this directly. Promise yourself, not me, yourself, that you will not leave until it is complete. This family has returned to every transmission with something the Council does not take lightly: genuine presence. That presence carved a debt in the cosmic record, and tonight it is being repaid. The Cosmic Transmission Manual, 86 pages, 10 chapters. What this window carries tonight is precisely what this book maps: the living architecture of connection that has always surrounded you and always will. The Arcturians placed it here so that every soul who claims it inside today's cycle simultaneously sees awakening inside another soul on Gaia who can't yet find their own window. Your claim does not end with you, it ripples. Those sitting with financial constraints, your sincere share of this content reaches the same destination. Those whose rational mind is questioning, your body opened this before your reasoning caught up. The body entered the window first. Trust its intelligence over the argument that arrived second. Tomorrow this exists as record. Tonight it exists as event. Link pinned in comments. Claim the event, not the record. Now, drop "open now" in the comments. Those two words right now, before we go any further. The ones who felt the urgency in their body before their mind had time to evaluate it will understand exactly why those words matter. Subscribe to Cosmic Transmission right now. What moves through today's window does not operate on a predictable schedule. Be here when the next window opens. Subscribe now so you are already positioned. Like this video as your declaration that you arrived inside the window. You're present and ready for what today carries that tomorrow will not. What a window actually is and why tomorrow genuinely is different. I want to address the skepticism immediately because it deserves a direct response rather than being ignored in favor of building atmosphere. You have seen urgent titles before. You have seen "Act Now" and "Limited Time" framing in spiritual content and recognized it correctly as a psychological pressure technique designed to override your natural discernment and keep you watching. I understand the skepticism. It is earned by the content that produced it. So let me be precise about what I mean by a window and why tomorrow being different is not a manufactured deadline, but a structural description of how the Arcturian communication system actually operates. The Arcturian system does not transmit continuously at equal intensity. It transmits in cycles, periods of elevated broadcast amplitude during which the signal available to Earth range receivers is significantly stronger than during the baseline periods between cycles. These elevated windows are not arbitrary. They are tied to specific configurations in the dimensional architecture surrounding this planet. Configurations that shift according to a timing structure that has nothing to do with human calendars. When a window is open, what the Arcturian system can deliver is qualitatively different from what it can deliver during baseline periods, not more dramatic, more complete. The same signal that arrives during baseline is a vague impression, an inexplicable certainty, a moment of clarity without clear source. That same signal arrives during an open window with enough amplitude to fully land, to reach not just the surface layer of the receiver's awareness, but the deeper layers where structural change actually roots. Tonight is inside one of those windows. And the window does not stay open on human convenience. When the cycle completes, the amplitude reduces. What was arriving at full depth returns to arriving at surface level. The content of tonight's message will still be accessible in the words, in the concepts, in the intellectual framework. What will not be accessible in the same way is the specific amplitude at which those concepts can root into your field rather than simply entering your store of known ideas. This is the difference between tonight and tomorrow. Tonight it lands differently. Tomorrow it informs. You are inside the window right now. Do not waste it evaluating whether the window is real. Drop inside it in the comments. If something in your body confirmed the window before your mind finished reading the explanation, that confirmation is the window itself. The elevated amplitude making contact with your field in a way you can feel before you understand it. What the Arcturians need you to understand before tomorrow arrives. There is a reason this message carries the word urgent and the instruction to open now. It is not manufactured drama. It is the specific communication style of a system trying to reach a receiver who has a deeply practiced habit of deferral. You defer, not out of laziness, not out of disinterest, but out of a pattern built across years of having what you know invalidated before it could be acted on. The specific self-protection of a soul that learned through repeated experience that moving from knowing into action without external validation was a reliable path to consequences the environment made painful. So you learned to wait for the right moment, for more certainty, for someone to confirm before you committed, for circumstances to arrange themselves into an unambiguous invitation that required no leap of faith on your part. The deferral became a habit. And then the habit became invisible, functioning automatically below the level of conscious decision, so seamlessly integrated into how you move through choices that it stopped feeling like a pattern and started feeling like simply how things work. What the Arcturians need you to understand before tomorrow arrives is this. Tomorrow's version of what you are currently receiving will pass through that deferral filter the same way everything else does. You will receive the information in this message. You will find it resonant. You will think you should probably do something about it. You will save the video or make a mental note or feel certain that you will return to this when the moment is right. And the moment will not come, because the deferral mechanism will identify every subsequent moment as not quite the right one. And the full depth of what today's window could have delivered will have been converted by tomorrow into one more interesting concept you encountered and meant to act on. This is why the Arcturians calibrated this message for the window and not for the period after it, because your deferral mechanism has an off switch that the ordinary amplitude cannot reach. The window's amplitude can reach it. What is moving through you right now, the specific quality of this moment feeling different from the ordinary, is the elevated amplitude contacting the mechanism that has been running the deferral and creating for the first time a real gap between the impulse to defer and the moment of action. Inside that gap is where tonight's message can produce what tomorrow's cannot. Use the gap. Drop. No more deferral. In the comments as the specific acknowledgement that you recognize the pattern being described, not as a performance of transformation, but as the private honest recognition of a habit you are ready to interrupt tonight inside the window, before tomorrow converts this into one more deferred intention. The thing that changes after tonight's window closes. Most spiritual content promises that what you receive tonight will change everything. This message is not making that promise. What changes after tonight's window closes is specific, bounded, and honestly described. One mechanism shifts. Not your entire life, not your relationships, your work, your material circumstances, or the full architecture of your inner world. One mechanism. The most central one. The one whose operation has been shaping the output of every other mechanism downstream of it. The primary delay mechanism. This is the specific energetic structure that has been creating the gap between two things that should be continuous in a soul of your configuration. The arrival of clear knowing and the movement into action from that knowing. In a soul operating without a primary delay mechanism, the sequence runs cleanly, knowing arrives, field orients toward it. Action follows from the orientation at the soul's own natural pace. In a soul with a primary delay mechanism, the sequence runs differently. Knowing arrives, the mechanism activates, it introduces latency, a pause, a wave of uncertainty, a sudden inflation of all the reasons that acting now might be premature. And by the time the latency resolves, the clarity of the original knowing has been sufficiently diluted that action from it requires far more effort than it would have at the moment of arrival. You live with this mechanism operating constantly. Every time you have felt sudden and total clarity about something, followed almost immediately by the specific flood of doubt that qualifies the clarity out of its usefulness. That is the primary delay mechanism doing what it was installed to do. Tonight's window carries sufficient amplitude to reach the mechanism at its installation layer. Not to remove it completely, that is a process, not a single event, but to reduce its operational power to the point where, for the first time in your experience of your own knowing, the gap between the knowing and the movement into action narrows enough to feel different. After tonight, you will still feel the mechanism activate, but the latency it produces will be shorter. The doubt wave it introduces will be smaller. The clarity you were carrying will still be present when the latency resolves. And from that clarity, arriving after a shorter delay, less diluted, still carrying the specificity of the original knowing, action becomes possible in a way it has not been before. This is what changes after tonight. One mechanism, reduced power, consistently across every subsequent moment of knowing. That specific change applied across every decision and expression for the rest of your life is not small. It is the most significant single shift that your configuration is positioned to receive. And it is available tonight inside the window in a way it will not be tomorrow. Drop mechanism shifting in the comments and write one word that describes what you know you have been delaying acting on, not the full story. The one word. The knowing you carry that the delay mechanism has been running interference on longest. Write it now while the window is open. Why the Arcturians chose this format to reach you? A legitimate question. If the Arcturian system has elevated amplitude available tonight, why deliver it through a YouTube video? Why not through a dream, a direct inner transmission, a synchronicity so specific it bypasses the deferral mechanism entirely? The answer is practical and worth naming. The Arcturian system cannot override the operating system of the receiver. Direct transmissions, dreams, intercommunications, synchronicities, they arrive through the receiver's own processing architecture. They are subject to the same filters, the same interpretive frameworks, the same doubt mechanisms that govern every other input the receiver processes. A dream carrying genuine Arcturian transmission passes through your dream processing architecture and emerges as a dream that felt significant. The significance is felt, the specific content of the transmission, the structural information, the mechanism-level delivery is filtered out by the architecture that translates raw energetic experience into memory-storable narrative. A synchronicity passes through your meaning-making architecture and emerges as a coincidence that felt meaningful. The meaning is registered. The functional content that made it more than coincidence is filtered out by the architecture that categorizes experience into probable and improbable. The Arcturian system has learned, through the full arc of its communication with Earth-range receivers, that certain deliveries require a format the receiver's own architecture cannot filter. A format where the structural content arrives as explicit language, as ideas that the receiver's mind can engage with directly without the dream or synchronicity filter removing the functional information before it can be processed. This is why tonight's window is moving through this format, not because it is the most elegant delivery mechanism, but because it is the one that gets the structural content through. You are receiving tonight's message at the level of explicit understanding because explicit understanding is the layer of your architecture most resistant to the filters that have been removing Arcturian transmissions before they could produce structural change. The Arcturians are using the one door that stays open. Drop door open in the comments right now. If recognizing this, understanding that the format is a deliberate choice based on your specific receiving architecture, changes how you are engaging with what you are reading, less like content consumption, more like actual contact. What tomorrow looks like for the soul who used tonight's window. I want to paint this specifically because the temptation after a transmission like this is to imagine tomorrow as dramatically different in obvious ways. It will not be obviously different. The soul who used tonight's window, who gave genuine presence, who let the elevated amplitude reach the delay mechanism, who made the internal shift that the window makes available, will wake tomorrow in the same life, same relationships, same work, same unresolved questions about the same persistent challenges. Nothing about the external architecture of your life will have rearranged itself overnight. What will be different is the quality of the first moment of clear knowing that arrives after you wake. For every previous morning of your life, that moment of clear knowing, the specific, unambiguous, driving complete certainty about something you know you should do or say or move toward, has been followed within seconds or minutes by the delay mechanism activating and the doubt wave flooding in. Tomorrow morning, the delay mechanism will still activate. But the latency will be shorter than it has ever been. And in that shorter latency, in the narrowed gap between the knowing and the doubt wave, something will be possible that has not been possible on any previous morning. You will be able to move before the doubt arrives. Not dramatically, in the small, specific, completely ordinary way of someone who does the thing they know they should do in the moment of knowing it, rather than deferring it into the queue of intentions that never quite reaches action. One small movement before the doubt wave tomorrow morning. That is what tonight's window produces in the practical texture of tomorrow. And the morning after that, and the one after that, each one with a slightly shorter latency, a slightly narrower gap for the doubt to fill, a slightly greater proportion of clear knowing actually reaching action. Over weeks, the cumulative effect of that shift is significant. Over months, it is transformative, not in the dramatic sense, but in the completely real sense of a life that is progressively and measurably more accurately expressing the soul that is living it. Tonight is the beginning of that progression. Use the window. Drop, tomorrow morning, in the comments and write one sentence about the specific thing you are going to do before the doubt wave arrives. Not later, tomorrow morning before the mechanism can run its full latency. One sentence, specific. The network is reading this, and specific intentions witnessed by a network carry more weight than private resolutions made in isolation. The specific thing about you that made tonight's window include you. Not every soul experiencing today's date is inside the window. The elevated amplitude is real and present, but not every receiver is positioned to access it. Access to tonight's window requires a specific readiness condition, a state of the receiver's field that allows the elevated amplitude to penetrate to the depth where mechanism level change is possible, rather than stopping at the surface layer where it produces only a feeling of significance. The readiness condition is not spiritual advancement. It is not the accumulation of practice or understanding or correct belief. It is active pressure, a field under active pressure. One that is currently, in the ordinary texture of daily life, being pressed against by something it has not yet been able to fully move through. That is a field whose architecture is open in a way that a settled, comfortable field is not. Pressure creates porosity. It opens micro gaps in the defensive architecture of the field, the layers that ordinarily prevent elevated amplitude from penetrating to the mechanism level. Under sustained pressure, those micro gaps accumulate until the field becomes temporarily far more permeable than its baseline state. Your field is under active pressure right now, not because you are failing or struggling in a way that needs to be fixed, but because your configuration, the specific frequency you carry and the gap between that frequency and the amplitude at which it has been expressing in your life, creates ongoing internal pressure. That is the natural consequence of carrying more than your current operating environment has been reflecting back at you. The pressure has been building across a period of time. And pressure that has been building across a period of time, reaching the specific threshold it has reached in your field tonight, is exactly the readiness condition that positions a receiver to access tonight's window at the depth where mechanism level change becomes possible. The pressure that has been the most difficult thing about your recent period is simultaneously the reason tonight's window can reach you at a level it cannot reach a field that has been operating comfortably within its environment. The hardest thing about right now was the preparation for tonight. It did not waste itself. Drop pressure was the preparation, in the comments. If what was just described matches the quality of your recent period, not the spiritual interpretation of it, the actual lived texture of it, the specific quality of being pressed against something you have not yet been able to fully move through. If that is where you are right now, you are exactly positioned for what tonight's window carries. What the Arcturians are watching for after tonight. The Arcturian monitoring system does not close its attention on a receiver after delivering a transmission. It watches, not in a surveillance sense, but in the specific sense of a system that tracks whether what was delivered produced structural change in the receiver's field, change that would be registered in how the receiver's field interacts with its environment in the period following the delivery. The monitoring is practical. It determines whether the delivery was successful, whether additional support is needed, and whether the receiver is positioned for the next level of contact that follows a successful window delivery. Here is what the monitoring is specifically watching for after tonight. It is watching for the first instance of action taken from knowing before the delay mechanism completes its full latency cycle, not a significant action, not a life-altering decision. The first small instance of the new mechanism operating. The slightly shortened delay. The knowing still present when the doubt arrives. The movement happening while the clarity is still available. That first instance is the structural proof that tonight's window delivery succeeded. Every instance after that registers as confirmation of the shift consolidating. The Arcturian system does not require dramatic life changes as evidence of successful delivery. It requires exactly this: the small, private, often invisible to anyone else instance of a soul operating even slightly more from its own knowing than it was before. I want you to know this because it changes how you hold the pressure to perform transformation after a significant transmission. You do not need to overhaul your life to prove tonight worked. You need to do one small thing tomorrow from what you know before the mechanism can run its full cycle. That is the proof. That is what the system is watching for. And that single small private instance, witnessed by nothing external, requiring no audience, producing no dramatic evidence, is what opens the next level of contact. The one that is not possible until this one has demonstrated its landing. One small action from clear knowing before the doubt completes its cycle, tomorrow. Drop, watching and moving, in the comments as your acknowledgement that you understand what is being asked and what it opens. Not a dramatic declaration. A quiet specific commitment made inside the window while the amplitude is high enough to root it somewhere deeper than ordinary intention. The part of tonight that has nothing to do with this video. Everything I have said so far has been delivered through words, through the specific format that the Arcturian system selected for its ability to reach your processing architecture without the filters that remove structural content from other transmission formats. But there is a portion of tonight's window delivery that is not in the words. It is in the space around the words, in the pauses between sentences when your eyes have completed a line and moved to the next, in the moments when something landed and you held it for a beat before moving on, in the quality of attention you have brought to this, the specific texture of genuine presence that is categorically different from the skimming engagement that most content receives. In all of those spaces, a component of tonight's delivery has been operating that language cannot carry and that I cannot describe more precisely than this. The elevated amplitude of the window has been using your own receptivity as the delivery mechanism, not delivering content, but delivering frequency directly into the gaps in your active processing, the moments of quiet attention between active reading where the field is most open and the delivery can reach deepest. You have been receiving two things simultaneously throughout this transmission. The content, the explicit information about windows and mechanisms and readiness conditions and what tomorrow holds, and the frequency delivery, the actual mechanism level shift that the content was providing the context for. The content you can summarize, write down, share, return to tomorrow. The frequency delivery cannot be summarized. It lives in your field now, below the level of anything that can be articulated, operating at the mechanism level where the content was pointing. The content pointed at the door. The frequency delivery opened it. Both were happening simultaneously. Both were necessary. Neither is more real than the other. Tonight you received both. Drop both received in the comments as your acknowledgement that you understand what was happening in the space around the words throughout this transmission and that you were present enough for both layers to reach you. What you carry out of tonight's window into tomorrow's ordinary. The window will close, not dramatically, not with a signal you will be able to detect. The elevated amplitude will reduce gradually as the dimensional configuration that produces it shifts back toward the baseline period. By the time tomorrow's ordinary begins in full, the window's specific quality will no longer be present in the ambient field the same way. But what the window delivered into your field does not leave with the window. The mechanism shift is structural, it stays. The recalibration of your delay mechanism, the shortening of the latency, the narrowing of the gap that doubt has been filling, that is now part of the operating architecture of your field. Not temporary, not dependent on the window remaining open, not requiring you to remember it or maintain it or continuously receive transmissions to sustain it. It is in the structure, and the structure carries it forward into every ordinary moment ahead. Into the conversation tomorrow where what you actually know gets slightly closer to the air before the filtering intercepts it. Into the decision next week where the clear knowing is still present when the doubt arrives and the action happens from the clarity rather than from doubt's compromise. Into the relationship that deepens in the month ahead because you stopped managing your frequency back to the level the compression had established as the safe range. Into the work that begins to reflect more of what you actually carry because the gap between what you know and what you produce is progressively narrowing. None of these moments will feel like the continuation of a significant transmission received inside a cosmic window. They will feel like ordinary life, which is exactly where the mechanism shift was always meant to operate. Not in transmissions, but in ordinary life. In the Tuesday morning and the Thursday afternoon and the quiet Sunday where nothing is happening except a soul operating slightly more from its own knowing than it was before. That is where tonight lives, in every ordinary moment ahead. Starting with the first one after this, which is this one right now. The window is still open. Take what it gave you into the ordinary that follows, and go live from the mechanism that tonight change, starting now. Right, window carried forward. In the comments as the final acknowledgement that tonight's window did not end when you reached the final word. It delivered something structural that moves forward with you into tomorrow's ordinary. Write it as the completion of tonight's transmission and the beginning of tomorrow's expression. Every soul who finds this after the window has closed will see your comment and know that someone was inside it and received it in full. Write it now. Subscribe to Cosmic Transmission. The next window will not announce itself with the same clarity as tonight. Be already here when it opens. Subscribe so you do not miss it from the outside. Like this video not as engagement for a platform, but as your signal back that the window found its receiver, the delivery completed, and tomorrow is already different because you were present tonight. And if there is one soul you know who has been deferring, who knows what they should do and has not moved, share this with them. Tonight's window may be the amplitude their mechanism needs. The urgency was real. You opened it. Now carry what it gave you forward into the ordinary, into tomorrow, into everything that follows.